there a motion to accept the memoization?
Motion.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion on it? Hearing none, is it roll call? Is that?
Second.
Second.
Need a second.
Oh, do a second.
Yeah. Okay, any discussion? Hearing,
Yes.
Ms. Brodsky?
Yes.
Mr. Weiner?
Abstain.
Mayor's representative, Mr. Patel?
Yeah.
Chairman Gaffrey?
yes. Okay, we're going to put the public portion behind the discussion items this evening. There's two discussion items. And the first one is a recommendation of ordinance number -2025-021, and it's amending the Code of Township Monroe, Section 108-6.18, entitled H-D Highway Development District. And what we're going to do this evening is, after hearing from our planner, we're going to consider whether, in the resolution, whether this proposal is consistent with the master plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Meek.
Yeah, and actually, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'll just give some background on,
Sure.
on sort of how we got here, and then allow Mika to provide some planning advice. So the council at the August 4th meeting introduced this ordinance stemming out of an application that came before this board last year. And so the ordinance does a couple of things related to the Highway Development District. The board heard an application last year proposing to build a warehouse at the corner of Butcher Road and North Disbrow Hill Road under the existing HD zoning. The planning board denied that application, and the applicant has been seeking relief through a complaint in the Superior Court. The township has negotiated a settlement of that litigation, which would include that property into our affordable housing plan for round 4 for 2025 through 2035, and rezone the property to 158 residential units as opposed to its existing highway development zoning. This ordinance effectuates that zoning change. It also, stemming from the same issue that was debated vigorously here before the planning board, it also amends the highway development zone to require access to Route 33 if a property owner is going to build a warehouse, which would then create some certainty that a warehouse would need ingress and egress from Route 33 and prevent smaller roads that are not equipped to handle tractor trailers from having to deal with that incompatible use. And so it's here before the planning board tonight for a review as to its consistency with the master plan, which is the limited role of the planning board in circumstances like this. And then it'll be back on for second reading and adoption next Wednesday at the September 3rd council meeting. So that's just the background. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. Good evening. Okay. I know I have to push it the other way around. So, good evening, Chairman. As Mr. McGovern said, this is the ordinance before the planning board today. We have to determine whether it's compliant with our master plan. Township of Monroe last adopted its comprehensive master plan in 2022. Some of the goals and objectives that this proposed ordinance is lending itself to is one of the primary goals of our master plan says to achieve a balance of land use types that maintain and enhances the quality of life of the township. As just presented by Mr. McGovern, this site itself was a topic of discussion last year before the planning board. One of the main issues was where this site is located. It's along a more quieter road, not along the Route 33, and the compatible land uses around it are all residential. So in order to achieve that balance of land use and making it more compatible to the surroundings, this ordinance is creating such a requirement where this site identified as Block 3, Lot 31 and 32, would be allowed to be developed as a residential property, more incompatible with its surrounding uses. And larger impactful uses such as warehouse and distributive centers would need a direct access to Route 33, which is what the intent of the ordinance would be, and it would be complying with the master plan. The second, another goal that this ordinance would lend itself to is update the zoning regulation to ensure high quality and appropriate development. Again, creating such type of land use which will be more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, would be able to rely on the streets that it's existing, would be more of a high quality and appropriate development. And it is, in my opinion, that these proposed changes, amendments to the ordinance are in compliance with your master plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mika.
Sure.
The other two housing developments, which a lot of the residents came out, I understand that that was also at one time an HD zoned.
I believe so, it was.
And did a similar resolution to change the zoning take place for those two developments?
I can't directly testify to that because I wasn't there at that time, but I believe that is the usual. I would ask Mr. Razimovich if he knows of any history of that development.
So, Mr. Chairman, my recollection is Monroe Manor you're talking, and Monroe Place.
Yes.
So Monroe Manor goes back to, I believe, the second round of affordable housing, one of the early rounds. As far as the zoning down there, I don't recall what it would have been before that. As far as Monroe Place, that was a HD zone. That's more near the corner of Butcher Road and Route 33 behind the Wawa. And that was part of the last round of affordable housing. There was an approval for a commercial development, and they were an intervener in the last round of affordable housing. So that was rezoned to be the residential that you see there now.
Thank you.
And that was part of our last round of affordable housing.
And I know that during the process of the last number of hearings for that warehouse application, there was some discussions had between members of the citizenry and the township. They expressed some concerns. During those discussions, were they made aware that a possible alternative was high-density housing?
They were, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Oh, just a quick comment. I think what is being done here is absolutely correct. You initially stated quality of life, I think was your phrase, and nothing would protect the quality of life better than not having trucks coming down the same street that school kids are coming home in. So yes, absolutely, this supports quality of life all the way through. It's very consistent. Comment.
I also understand that there might be a park associated with this area of property?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that wouldn't be part of the block and lot that's being rezoned here, but there is a piece of property that the township is acquiring also next Wednesday night, September 3rd, in front of the council, where there will be some parkland that will be developed, in conjunction with discussions and conversations with the residents to see what they want to have down there and if it's feasible. But yeah, that's an exciting component of this as well. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add, I think this change in ordinance is highly beneficial, and I think our planner did a wonderful job in breaking it down. I would just add that being present when that other matter and on this board came up last year, and I think the ordinance creates a very nice balance. The town is always inconsistent with our master plan, looking to have different varieties of housing, and the creation of the RA2 zone allows for that. And it also finds a balance, because from what I recall at the discussion at the time of that application that dealt with this property, was similar to what our engineer indicated based on his experience here, that at some points those housing development areas became part of that area. I'm guessing essentially by zoning after the fact, similar to what's happening here now. And in doing so, it looks like now we're finally creating a better balance between the industrial nature that has always been down there and is consistent to a lot of that area of the township, but at the same time recognizing the needs of the residential area, which is always a challenge when you have residential and commercial or industrial within the same zone, because that was the issue when that application came down last year, was both were permitted. The applicant of the warehouse at that time was a fully permitted use, subject to bulk variances that they were looking for and other waivers and so forth, but the use itself.
It's still pending litigation, so let's
Okay.
talk less about what
All
that
right.
application was.
No problem.
Thanks.
But I would say that I think it makes a lot more sense now with the conditional use change in the new ordinance and allowing access to Route 33, because that does, as Mr. Rothman said, helps attenuate situations where not just school children may be on buses or being driven to and from school in an area going to a residential area, but it takes a lot of the truck traffic off of there. And by requiring any type of future development of this property to be used only with access to Route 33, I think it makes a lot of sense in the broader scheme of the entire area and finding a good balance consistent with the township's goals in our master plan. So I think it's a highly positive change to the ordinance.
Thank you. Anybody else on the board? Does anybody from the public wish to be heard on this?
Michelle Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street. Could I ask for some specifics on this ordinance that, let's see, or if you can point out what in particular in this ordinance is different and the changes from the previous HD zone? So what makes this an amendment to the master plan, please? And if you can,
It
So-
wouldn't be an amendment to the master plan. This is just an amendment to the ordinance.
Ordinance.
The purpose of the planning board's review tonight is to see whether the ordinance amendment is consistent with the master plan.
so wait, this is an ordinance, but it's amending chapter,
It's amending your land development ordinance.
okay. So the ordinance is actually chapter 108.
Yes.
So
And
what?
wait, let me just
Okay.
wrap my head around this, I'm sorry. You
That's
know what
okay.
you're talking about, I don't. So the ordinance itself that we're addressing is 108. This is an ordinance amending 108.
Yes.
Okay, that's clear. But the question still remains, if you can point out on this, what, because I don't have 108 in front of me, what
Changed.
changed, yeah.
So this is specifically amending your section in the ordinance 108-6.18, which is the HD Highway Development District.
Okay.
So your ordinance in that has, in that section, it talks about what's permitted in that zone and all. So this ordinance is amending that. It's removing wholesale, distributive, and storage establishment as a direct permitted use. It is also removing highway development parks and planned parkment and the list of things that are associated with it. It's removing that from this district. What it's adding is, it's saying under the conditional use portion,
Is that D?
yes, that D, that it's moving that wholesale distributive storage system from permitted under conditional use.
So wait, so all the crossouts here,
Our deletion.
they're deleted, okay?
Yeah. And then the next page you see under D, they have underlined. So they've moved the wholesale distributive and storage establishment under conditional uses.
So D is gonna be all the conditional, right, uses
Yeah,
required?
they all already exist. The only new one that's added is the wholesale distributive and storage establishment.
And that is number 11.
Yes,
Okay. So that's new for this amendment.
yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
And then they, under, just below that, if you see, they're amending Article 7th, where we have all the conditional uses listed in our zone. So specifically 108, 7.2.
No, I'm sorry.
So
Article
just below you see where we talked about D, just below that you see.
Oh, 7.2, standards of approval?
Exactly.
Okay.
So under that, they have added what would be the condition. Why is wholesale distributive would be a condition? The condition at that it would need direct driveway access to Route 33. That's when somebody can put a wholesale.
That makes a lot of sense, and
Establishment.
very important. Okay. And that's it on the whole ordinance?
No, then they have the section 2 of this ordinances, they are adding a new district known as RA2, which is Residential Affordable Housing District, which is, if you heard prior, the site we are talking about, those block 3, 31 and 32, it's changing its zoning from HD into RA2. Affordable Housing District too.
And does that have to have a specific amount of acres in order to qualify?
Yes,
And
so.
are they contiguous acres?
Yes, so
And where
all
would
they
that
are
be?
talking about is over here what would be permitted under this. So specifically for this lot, they're saying you'll be allowed inclusionary housing, but maximum of that would be 158 units, of which minimum 65 will have to be affordable units. Then it also lists what would be permitted, your typical residential accessory uses such as deck and patios, swimming pools, off-street parking and all that. And then below that, it lists all the area, yard and bulk requirements.
Okay, that's F.
Yeah,
Okay. You're good. I'm trying to keep up with you.
thank you.
Okay, so that's sort of ancillary to,
Yeah, and so there you will see that what are the bulk requirements. It says, that minimum lot area has to be 3 acres.
which
Is
what
under
letter?
F, if you see 1D, it will list all those things.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. The bulk requirements for subdivided lots.
yeah. So all these things, sorry, I'm jumping, but
That's okay.
above that also, it lists what the density of the lot can be. It says you're allowed to have for the entire tract, the gross density can be 7 dwelling units per acre.
And that is what,
That is 1B. If you see under F, 1B,
oh, okay.
yeah. But it also, it's giving you a gross density, but it's saying that maximum number of units can be 158.
Okay,
It cannot exceed that.
okay.
And it continues on. It talks about all your setback standards, your rear yard standards, how the building has to be placed from side to side and all that. It'll give you lot coverage. It gives you, the height of, if it's a townhouse, maximum 3 stories, which is very typical in Township of Monroe, and apartments also will not exceed 3 stories or 50 feet.
Okay, this is the same, or is this just in here because of the Affordable Housing Amendment? Is that why?
No,
Or
this
what
is in here because it is allowing a residential development to occur
Right,
on
it's
this
a-
site.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is about just reiterating what residential's allowed.
Not really, it's setting standards.
Oh, it is.
So it's basically saying that it is basically saying you can develop this lot as residential, but these are the parameters it'll have to follow, whatever
Okay.
development comes here.
Okay. Now, but it has an affordable housing requirement, Or can this all be market rate at some time in the future? Does this represent a potential for just all market rate?
So the way, if you see, keep going under G, if you
Yes.
look, it talks about that it has to, the number of affordable family rental dwelling units that can come out of this site has to be 65. The caveat is that it does say it can be built on or off-site. But because we are allowing 158, the township basically has to produce 65 affordable units. So whoever develops this property will have to provide the 65 affordable units for the
They will
town,
owe 65,
Yes.
even if it's in a different area?
even if it's in a different
Okay,
area.
gotcha.
They have to do that for the township.
And that's covered under
G.
G1?
Yeah, G1,
Okay,
yeah.
that's important, okay,
Yeah.
because sometimes it looks, all right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then below that, it's basically, you must have seen all these other, how many can be 3-bedroom, how many can be 1-bedroom, and so on and so forth. So-
Is this, and forgive me because I'm not a mathematician and I'm not going to do it in my head, is this 30% or 20% of the affordable housing unit?
It's 30%.
It is, excellent, okay. That, I think, should be
Brought
really.
the beginning.
I mean, people should advertise that, because I think that's a win for us, if you don't mind me editorializing. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's
Go
all
ahead.
Mr. McGovern's doing. No,
No,
it's
that's
fine.
good. No, it's important, well, it's important.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead. Anything
So,
else?
no, and then, it kind of continues, it'll give you more about the signage, the parking, all that we have in our ordinance, and
Okay.
fencing, and so on and so forth.
So my only comment would be, all of these parameters I've seen in coming to the planning board for 20 years, they're all very good, and I support the ordinance as it stands. However, my experience has been that applicants, so I'm just talking in generalities, that applicants come to this board and ask for a myriad of waivers and exceptions and all that stuff, which leads me as a citizen to believe that these are really not standards, that they come in and ask, and when we have your letters, we have letters from the engineer, and a lot of these things. Now, they have a right to ask for all these waivers, but I think that if you really want to protect the people of Monroe, we have to try to stay at pretty close to these standards. I've seen where the setback has been, 60 feet, and I don't have anything specific, but if the setback is 60 feet, they come in and ask for 5 feet, like a waiver for 55 feet. I mean, it doesn't make sense, and that's just a hypothetical. It doesn't make sense to have the quality of this amendment that we're going to congratulate ourselves on if when the applicant comes, they have 5 pages of waiver requests and you give it to them. I mean, this is to protect the citizens, and this is a great amendment, and I'm glad the citizens came out and tried to protect themselves. But this is the kind of thing that we should be cognizant of every application, if you don't mind me saying so. So I
Yeah.
guess that.
No, I agree, and that's why these standards are set. The board members here, when the application comes in, they, obviously our letter, the board engineer's letter is given to them as a preview of what are the variances. It's always the applicant and applicant's team job to prove that. As per the land use law, they'll have to prove the variances. And each and every board member here does listen to their testimony and then is going to decide individually whether they've met the standards to seek the justification of variance. So it's always case by case basis, and
Like I
That's
said,
how-
the pattern, unfortunately, over the 20 years has been that in my opinion, again, just my opinion, that the standards are usually diminished a great deal in favor of the applicant. I hope we can change that and protect our citizens, and I applaud this amendment in order to do so. I know a lot of people came out, and thank you for working on it. Oh, I do have another question, though. Who negotiated these changes, and with the developers, and then is there yet another developer in the mix here?
I think the topic tonight is the ordinance. So it's a review of the ordinance for consistency with the master plan. So
Okay,
that's the
but-
focus of what this board's going to discuss. I mean, I understand that you may have more questions, but they aren't really questions for this board, because this board didn't draft the ordinance. This board was tasked solely with determining whether it's consistent with the master plan.
But okay, so who drafted the ordinance?
It's someone on behalf of the council, not this board. So,
So you
Mr.
just got-
probably Mr. Rayno's office.
Okay, because again, all right, I mean, I'll take your.
It's
your
just this,
statement that-
this,
yeah.
this board didn't draft the ordinance. This board was given this ordinance pursuant to the municipal land use law with a request that it review it for consistency with the master plan.
Okay,
So that's
what
its.
is it- Was there any deliberation between the board members before tonight? I mean,
No.
there's not any deliberation now, so
Well,
there
we
weren't too
haven't
many
gotten to
questions.
deliberation because we have had presentation, we've had questions on behalf of the board for Ms. Apte, then the chairman opened it to the public. We have not come back to have any discussion by the board before it would take an action. So the board hasn't taken action yet, so
Okay,
that's where we're at.
okay, but prior to tonight, there hasn't been any discussion,
There shouldn't have been any discussion
Right,
because this
that-
is a public body that's required to act at this meeting. So if there was, it was improper and I don't think it happened, so.
okay, good. Thank you for your time.
You got it.
Thank you, it looks like a good one.
Okay. Anybody else wish to be heard?
My name is Charles Tapiro, 404 Spotswood Gravel. I was just listening to the additions that that our planner discussed, and I just have one question about highway development. Was it ever considered to add, to have highway development, you need a highway? Highway being such state highway, county road? Because if we're making an amendment or we're making a change and you're making the additions and the subtractions, to have a highway development, you know, there's a lot of properties that are missing a highway.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Please.
I think it's a good question. It's a question that probably comes to you as the council can only change a zoning ordinance or
Wow.
develop a zoning ordinance. This board is just reviewing this particular ordinance for consistency. But to answer your question, we only have a highway development zone here in Monroe down south near Route 33. And so what this does is this amendment in part says that if you're going to have a warehouse, you have to have access to Route 33. If you're going to develop something in the highway development zone that requires tractor trailers, or that would see an influx of tractor trailers, then you have to have ingress and egress on Route 33. If you have other ideas, you're in a position to do that as a council person, but I don't think this board is.
I'm speaking as a taxpayer, I'm speaking as a real estate broker for 45 years. I'm speaking as someone that basically came into this building since day one it's been built. And as the past resident just said, we make ordinances, we make plans, and we do all of this stuff, and then applicants come in front of you and they ask for tons of relief. And when I remember talking in the past, and as the attorney said, you know, it's under litigation, and I'm not saying anything about any of that stuff. All I'm asking is if the zone is going to get, or it's going to get amended, that highway development should have a highway. It's a simple addition to a change, because we watched the overlay zone go out there. Okay, we watched round two, as you discussed, about Stratford and Monroe Manor, which is still not fulfilled. The round two, you know, you start going from 95 and 2005, and you start hitting all of these affordable housing obligations. And I understand our obligation as the town and as this board is to say, yes, we have the properties, and we did make the requirements by the state mandates. But however, the developers really are holding the key, the golden key. And, you know, I've never been on any of these boards, but I've been here for many, many years, and I watched many, many boards not put the hammer down on the developer to say that you have to have the affordable housing built prior to marketable with certain units. The last time we had this discussion was Monroe Park, and there was not one affordable housing, even though the resolution said it, but the developer just didn't build affordable units. And you know, it was a big mess. And it's not fair to the public to be misled. And as a real estate broker locally, when people come to me and they say, where can I buy for that's affordable, if there's no units out there, but I understand that we've made the commitment to the mandate, but we didn't build the product. And that's the part that's the broken part of the system. And what the reality is, people aren't seeing it. I think that if we take this and we say the word highway development, you need a highway. As example, county road, state highway. And we're watching Manalapan do the same thing, building all affordable housing up and down State Highway 33. You know, you're watching other towns do it because of the mandates. And I don't want to say which way I am about this change, but I just wanted to add what the past resident said is true. I watched it. And also, I wanted to add the comment, maybe whoever did this draft could add the word highway into highway development. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, this is really limited to whether or not this is consistent with the master plan. Is there anybody else from the public that wish to be heard on this recommendation? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public portion as to this recommendation?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the motion that is on the table right now is whether we can recommend, based upon the review here tonight, whether this is consistent with the master plan, and we can take it to the council, who I understand is from Kevin, is meeting next Wednesday?
Yes.
So is there a motion for that?
I would move that.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll move to vote on it.
Mr. Rothman?
Yes.
Ms. Brodsky?
Yes.
Mr. Weiner?
Yes.
Mayor's Representative, Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Chairman Gaffrey?
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, to the extent that the municipal land use law provides 45 days for this board to receive the ordinance, review it, and provide its recommendation to the council, I prepared a resolution in advance of the meeting which would memorialize the board's action endorsing this change as consistent with the master plan. I would ask that the board consider that resolution. It essentially says pretty much what I said.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Rothman?
Yes.
Ms. Brodsky?
Yes.
Mr. Weiner?
Yes.
Mayor's Representative, Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Chairman Gaffrey?
Yes. Okay, moving on to the second discussion item, and I'm just going to introduce and then turn over to Mr. Vignolo. Review and recommendation of resolution number R-8-2025-169, authorizing planning board to conduct a study for making a recommendation to designate block 148 lot 37 and the buffer property as non-condemnation development area pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law.
And this is more informational than anything else, Mr. Chairman. So this is just so the board understands that this resolution has been adopted by the council, that the council has tasked the planning board with having a study prepared and then having a hearing on whether or not this property can be designated as an area in need of redevelopment, a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment, which would mean that the governing body would not have the power of eminent domain to acquire property, although I believe this is actually owned by the township, so it's kind of a moot point at this point. But just so you understand that if at some point that study comes in and that hearing is held, you understand where it came from, why it happened, and what the genesis of it was. So that's what this is.
And that's going to then be provided to the board by
By Ms.
township
Apte.
planner?
Yep, most likely, yes.
So we don't have to take any action.
You don't need to do anything tonight. This is just really more informational, so you understand that the council has adopted this resolution. This is something that's going to be in the works, and that in the future, if Ms. Apte shows up with a study, you understand why it happened, where it happened, and what you're supposed to do. Okay?
Before we move on, does anybody have any questions regarding this?
No.
And since there's no action to be taken, there's no motions.
Nope.
I'm going to go back to the public portion and invite any member of the public to come forward on any other issue other than the recommendation we've already discussed. Okay, seeing nobody come forward, is there a motion to close the public portion?
Can I just ask one question? I'm sorry. I was looking for it. I'm gonna, Mr. Gaffrey, I'm not gonna take too much of your time. Michelle Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street. Just when the discussion item says review and recommendation, I thought that that might mean that if you have a recommendation other than what you have presented, you could actually go to the council and make an additional recommendation. Is that not the case?
On what, the review of the ordinance?
Yeah, both paragraphs say review and recommendation, so I'm thinking that a
Well,
recommendation.
the second one was really review. There was a question over whether or not action needed to be taken when the agenda was prepared. It did not need to be.
Okay.
The board does have the ability to offer comments on an ordinance when it does a consistency review of the master plan, if it chooses to do so.
Okay, so it's possible
It's
that there
possible.
could have been a recommendation like what was suggested by another member of the public to add the, the language highway.
There is always a possibility to make a recommendation.
Okay, so the board
so
chooses not to, that's, okay.
The board is entitled to do that or not do
Okay.
that. Yep.
I just wanted to clarify it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come forward from the public? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, correspondence, there's no correspondence, and I think we can move to adjourn. Does anybody move?
Motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.